Welcome to another episode of Dollar Dorks. This is episode 5. This is the podcast where we aim to share video game buying and selling tips. We give suggestions about what games to watch for, provide tips on how to fund your collection with your collection, and hopefully change the perception some people have of sellers in the video game collecting community. My guests today are Travis from Polykill, our resident collector of Polykill.
Yep.
And we have Canadian Retro, the man who you can see cleaning his pickups on the Cartridge Club Hangout every week.
Yeah, that's me.
And I'm Derek of Two Dorks. So we get started every time with your last noteworthy deal or pickup. And we're going to start off with Travis. It's the last thing you bought.
Okay, so this past weekend, I don't know if you guys listen to the Collect Calls or not, this little interview podcast I do with other collectors. The very first guy I interviewed last year so happened to live not far from me. It just happenstance. I was like, you live where? Like, no one lives near me, so I was blown away. So ever since then, we meet up every few months and go hunting for games. And this past weekend, there was I will use quotes around it. There was a con near me last week. It was called the Big Lick Con. I don't know what Big Lick means. It wasn't an adult con, as you might have imagined with that name. But it was a con that had like a few B-listers from The Walking Dead there or whatever. Anyway, we get together. We're going to go up and check out this con. It was abysmal, but I did find hidden over in the corner a Rob the Robot, most of a Rob the Robot for $15, which I thought was pretty cool because I didn't have one. It probably doesn't work, but I mean, who uses theirs? It's a cool shelf piece. I didn't already have it. So, the lady didn't really know what it was. It obviously doesn't have much functionality from her point of view. So for $15, I thought it was a cool shelf piece.
Surprised it wasn't cheaper if she didn't even know what it did.
Yeah, I think she knew that because it had like Nintendo.
It says Nintendo.
Yeah, so she probably jacked it up 200% there, maybe paid $15, but whatever. Also picked up a game that I've been looking for a while. It's not a white whale or anything, but The Legend of Dragoon for PS1. Been excited to play this one for a long time. It comes kind of busted. I didn't actually realize that until I walked out of the store with it, so I got a little duped, but I didn't pay much for it, which was cool. Don't worry, it gets better. It gets better. At this con, this terrible excuse for celebrities to come stand at an empty table, there was a little bit of a game booth there, and I found this Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego, like this old NES big box that comes with the game, the manual. Sorry, the game manual was in there with it too, and
my cousin has either that or the Where in the World for NES.
Yeah, and this is the NES and the desk encyclopedia that evidently came with this version of the game. So that was really neat. Again, this was $15. I looked online and it goes for closer to 40 and 50. Of course, on eBay. So I felt pretty good about that. And it's not something I see very much. Actually, I didn't even know that existed. So that was a cool piece. So pick that up as well. So the last thing that I think is most noteworthy was a game that obviously made by Tato. You say Tato, Tato, whatever. Kickmaster. And I got it in the box. And this is a minty ass box. Like, this is a really good box, and I paid as much for it in the box as it is usually or typically goes for with just the cart. So it goes for about $90. It's not a common game by any means. Again, it's got Tato written on it, so it's hard to find. And I was happy to pick this up. And I had if I downloaded an app for that store that day, I got a 20% discount, so it was even cheaper. So I felt pretty good about that one, and it's a good collection piece. So those are the big ones I've picked up.
Cool. And these are all to keep, right? You said earlier, or you said to me, basically, you're not a seller. You're a keeper. You're a hoarder.
I am a keeper. Yeah, I don't. I don't really have the wherewithal to find a good deal and then immediately imagine it as being sold. If I see a good deal, I usually think about what I have and what I don't have. If I already have it, I usually will pass on. I need to get better about that. Though, listening to especially your last episode with Jason and those guys, I was like, I should probably get better at, the bottom line. So that's why I'm here. You guys are supposed to be remediating me and making me better at selling.
Good. I'm glad. Or at least picking up things you're going to sell because you don't want to keep.
Right.
Cool. All right. Next is me for what I've got. I mean, I haven't been buying a lot. I've been building inventory, but not buying too much because of the Berry Game Exchange this weekend. But last noteworthy thing, it's really hard to say. Nothing fancy. I mean, I picked up, I don't have them here because they're all upstairs and priced and ready to go. Jackbox Party Pack for PS4. Picked it up for, I swear it was $5, but I wrote down 10. Anyway, it's worth 25. And then I picked up Spider-Man Web of Shadows for PS3. Not understanding why it's worth like $25, but I picked up for $5 on Kijiji, which is again like Craigslist, a classified site here in Canada. And I picked up a Wii actually in box a couple weeks ago. And it was, the girl said it didn't work. She's like, oh yeah, anybody want to come pick up this Wii? It's free. I go to pick it up. It's in the box. It's missing the Wiimote, and it's missing the pack-in game of Wii Sports, and missing the nunchuck. But I take it home, plug it in. It works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't understand what was wrong with it. She said she thought the power supply might be bad. I'm like, well, I have a spare power supply if that's the problem. But I plug it in, there's no problem. So I've got a Wii now to sell. I added a controller and I added a nunchuck to it, and a game too. I added Wii Sports. I had them all laying around. So that's something I'll be selling in Barrie too. Weird that it was just there and free. So all those things are things I picked up to sell. I think all of them I found on Kijiji. Yeah, found on Kijiji just with my RSS feeds searching Kijiji for me. Yeah, good price and selling. So on to you, Canadian Retro.
Well, probably I don't have them physically in my hand, though the people listening to this probably don't care to see it. But people watching on YouTube, I don't have it in my hand because I boxed it up because I'm, wrapping up this room or whatever, basically. So it's already in a crate ready to move to my new place kind of thing. But I picked up Out Kid in High Tech World on the Master System, which, as far as Master System games go, I don't really see them out in the wild that much. So if I see them for like 10 and under, I usually buy them. Unless it's like some super common sports kind of scenario, but otherwise I'll buy it. So I found that at a Value Village. They had it Value Village price for like $10, which wasn't too bad because sometimes they go absolutely astronomical with their stuff there. And then at the same time, I found Altered Beast, and that one, the Alex Kid didn't have the manual, but the Altered Beast did. So that was kind of cool, and they're both complete and they're really great shape. So I bought each one for $10 each. Probably like noteworthy things though. One of the things that I picked up was the CD soundtracks. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
A little while ago. So, I mean, that's pretty noteworthy, I think, because you don't really see those a lot. That was like, and I wish I had them in front of me right now, but there's a lot of cool. Like N64.
The coolest part was the shape of the disc, right? The disc actually cut to the shape of Yoshi's head.
Yeah, one of them was cut. Yeah, so it's like Yoshi's Story soundtrack, and it's cut to Yoshi's head style or whatever. Only problem with that is you need the clip-in type CD player if you're going to play those.
Yeah, the ones that feed won't work.
Yeah, so I fed one of those discs into my car, and it was a little bit of a wrestling match getting it out of there. But so I think that's pretty much why they ditched that kind of plan, making shaped CDs, because it's just like it took me a while to figure it out. I think I had to play it on like an actual game console where you clip it in.
Yeah, or an old walk with Discman or something like that would work. Yeah.
And I ripped the audio off of them though, but I used my wife's laptop because my computer doesn't have a clip-in type, but laptops do. So But anyways, that was the most. I found that I just walked in and looked at the CD shelf, which is a good spot to look. Sometimes you can find like PS1 games CD rack when they misplace them because a lot of times they're in the glass case or whatever. But if you check out CD sections, you can always find interesting things in there that you may not have thought to look for, and I just happened to walk in at the right time, I guess, because I got them for CD soundtrack prices, and some of those discs were worth like $100 each.
Yeah, and you're planning on selling them? Well, you're not.
I'm gonna hold on to them. I'm a semi hoarder, so
That's fair.
They're way too unique. I couldn't possibly sell those. I'll never see those again.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I'd rip them to MP3, and then I wouldn't care about them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I like the artwork on them. I guess that's the collector in me, right? So
yeah, that's fair. All right. Next section is something you're selling. Now this is gonna be interesting for Travis, but tell us about something you got for sale on eBay, Kijiji, or you got a trade or a swap coming up, or anything like that. Starting off with me. Well, let's start off with, I'm just going to pick something. Well, let's pick out some stuff I'm selling for a friend, actually. I got a coworker at work. This is kind of interesting. She's a gamer, been a gamer for a long time. She likes to keep her stuff very pristine, and she moved from the US to Canada and brought all her stuff with her. And her mom forced her to throw out all her boxes as a kid. So ever since she moved out on her own, she hasn't thrown anything out. And as a result, she gave me a bunch of stuff that she wanted to clear out. I'm trying to find the list now. All of her stuff from the first time. So this is the second time she's giving me a bunch of stuff. The first time we ended up with around, there it is. So we ended up with selling $707 worth of stuff.
Wow.
Oh, that's how much. That's not how much. That's how much just after taking off my profit, because she agreed to give me 30%. So $936 worth of stuff that she gave me, and I sold for her, and I got 30% out of it because she just didn't want to do the overhead of actually selling it.
Mhm.
So that's pretty neat. And she gave me a whole bunch more stuff. Not as good of stuff this time, but let's see. One highlight would be, there's Resident Evil 2 on PS1. There's a DSi XL Midnight Blue, which goes for a decent amount of money, like $70 to $90. Mario and Luigi Partners in Time for DS, $25, $30, anywhere in there. Some decent stuff, Chrono Cross. But yeah, that's something I'm selling, and I'll be selling at the Very Game Exchange. What did I pay for it? So I'm essentially paying her 70%, and then I'm selling it to get my 30%, right? How much is worth? I already covered. And did I buy it to play it? I'm not going to play any of it. I thought about playing some of it while I have it in my possession, but I just don't have time. So yeah, that's it. And moving on to Canadian Retro.
I don't know if there's anything particularly noteworthy that I'm selling. I'm selling stuff out of my trunk at the Barrie Game Exchange. I usually do my infamous trunk deals. There's quite a bit of stuff in there. There's like Mario 64 in there. There's trying to think of whatever super high-end titles. There's nothing really, because a lot of it is stuff I sold at the last Barrie Game Exchange. And I haven't found a whole bunch of stuff lately. This summer really haven't been out looking that much. Just haven't had the time. I've been doing a lot of other things, so I don't really have super high-end stuff because I pretty much sold all that at the last Barrie Game Exchange. But I do have some pretty decent titles. Something maybe of interest if I can reach it here. Let me see if I can get this.
We'll wait.
Which I'll be bringing. Oh no, it's right beside me. Is this Outrun 2019 plug-and-play system, like a Genesis kind of thing, and all it does is play the one game.
Is it motion control?
It's like a little steering wheel controller.
Is it motion? Like it detects motion of your steering, or is it like you have to fasten it down or something weird?
I have no idea. I've never taken it out of the box.
Okay.
So.
Oh, there's buttons on, so maybe you just steer with the buttons.
Yeah, I think you do. It's just the controller shaped like that. But
yeah.
There's some people that are interested in these plug and play kind of systems. So I couldn't leave it behind, considering the fact that it was complete or whatever you call it, in the box and everything. Yeah. And
even out of the box, they display nice, but that one in the box will display even better, right?
Yeah, and it's from 1993, so pretty cool. I'll be bringing that to Barrie too to see if any plug and play experts want that. I remember at one of the Waterloo swaps, I had a lady who was really into plug and play. She came around. That's all she was looking for. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe I'll run into her again. You never know.
Hey, if you see her,
trunk
you like plug and plays.
Yeah, trunk deals are open to all.
So. Nice. Do you know what it's worth? Did you look it up on eBay?
I don't even know what this one goes for. I think it's like $20 or $30.
All right, just curious.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool.
It's just interesting because it's like one of those plug and play things, but it's got only one game on it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Pac-Man one and the Star Wars ones and that stuff.
But I think this one's from '93. I think that's what it says on the box, which is kind of weird because it doesn't look like it. So it might just be a copyright date. I have no idea. It is from Radica Games.
I can't see them putting Genesis on it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? So it mustn't be.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyways.
Yeah.
I don't have room for it, so it's got to go.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Travis, you got anything you're selling? I know you said you don't really sell, but if you got anything at all.
I don't, but maybe I can touch on here a little bit about what my hang up is, I guess, most of the time. And so maybe you guys can help me with this somewhat.
Yeah, we did some therapy for Joe last week.
There's some therapy for me. So I do acquire a lot, but I don't think it's a problem. I got plenty of space. You know, my budget's not hurting. I'm fine there. I don't have a need to sell, and that's probably the impetus. But even if I do have things, like if I have duplicates or extras or whatever, I'm a real big softy. I'll throw them in the CC mystery box. I'll just give them to a friend that needs them. I don't, depending on how much they're worth, I typically don't, have duplicates of anything too expensive. So it's usually not a big deal. And like I said, I don't usually look for things to sell. But if, of the few things that I do have that I would consider, I mean, one is just like, I don't have any account online where they're like eBay specifically. I have no account where there's any credibility to me selling anything. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have any stars or whatever. So there's a little bit of rapport you kind of have to build up, right? There's that. There's some hassle with me just taking my things to a post office and doing it. Like that's a mental hurdle for me. I'm like, I just don't have the time. I'm 15 minutes away from my post office, which in this day and age, how's that possible? And et cetera. And then it's, pricing and all this other stuff. So I have all these like mental hurdles and time and all that stuff. So is a lot of that, did you ever have any hangups with that when you first started selling, or has it just always been the bottom line for you? You're just getting money back.
Go ahead, Troy.
Oh, I mean, I've done some eBay sales, very, very slim kind of amounts and not like crazy amounts, but I pretty much just hoard everything and then take it to swap meets. At this point, if I sort of need money to game collect, because my wife would basically kill me if I used any of like personal funding. Like obviously when I started, I did use personal funding, but in the last like 4 years kind of thing, my video game collecting basically funds itself, so it doesn't come out of my pocket kind of thing. And although sometimes that rule is broken, but for the most part, that's the way that it works. So, but I don't really do like too much online sales. I have done Kijiji before, but I just, it's a lot of time effort for little gain, I think, really, when it comes down to it. And sometimes you go and people don't meet up with you and blah, blah, blah. And it's back and forth on when can you meet, and people send you their sob story and this kind of stuff. And I just don't have time for it. I'm not there to entertain them. I'm there to sell something. So I just hoard it and I take it to the swap meet and get money to go buy more games, basically. Yeah,
that's interesting. The swap meet idea was something introduced to me actually not long ago, because we don't have any of that here. And I first heard about a swap meet from a guy that lived in Southern California, and he was like, yeah, we have them all the time. They're like at every street corner. You just go and take a bag of games and you come home with more games. I'm like, that sounds amazing. And then I read online, somebody had posted near me, like, we're going to have a swap meet on Saturday, bring some games. You bring X amount of games, you get in the door free, yada, yada, yada. Nice. And I go, and it was just one guy sitting on a blanket selling like 2 old NESs. Like it was not an ordeal. There wasn't enough people to show up. It was totally kind of like a back alley thing. And so I wish I had more of that stuff, because I think that's more of the, like Troy's kind of alluding to, it's less hassle. You're kind of going there, you know what you're looking for. People are looking for games, and it's sort of this perfect place where people of similar interest are gathered together for that purpose. It just seems easier than dealing with Craigslist or finding your way to the post office, paying for shipping, and dealing with all that stuff, PayPal, etc.
Yeah. So maybe it's a matter of density of the number of people who are willing to do it in your area. Then you're just getting screwed that way. I was going to say something the exact opposite with you when you were talking about giving things to friends. Is I don't really have that many people locally here that I would be able to even give things away to that would play the same games or same console games. Like most of my friends play PC games, other than the Cartridge Club people who I've met in the last 2 years. And even that, most of them are so physically, far away that with a family, I just can't have time to drive, an hour to go see Canadian Retro or even Josh, who lives like 20 minutes away from me in the same town. There's just no time for either of us to get together and do stuff like that. So the swap meets are really the only way to do it physically. Now, I've never sold at Game Exchange or Swap Meet yet, so this is my first time, but I've been to several of them. For me, when I started out, it actually was a continuation for me of what I had done in the past, which was buying, selling, and fixing paintball gear. And I used that to fund my paintball gear equipment. So I kind of just took what I learned from that in terms of buying and selling on Kijiji, and being polite, trying to do things, as many things as you can to avoid someone screwing you over or not showing up, right? Like confirming with them, and making sure that they're not just a douche when they're emailing them. You can tell when people are typing badly and stuff like that. So that has helped me be able to do this. And that's kind of where I came from when I started doing this, was I'm going to use it to pay for itself. I don't want to put any of my own money into it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I really put my own money into is digital games on PC, on Steam.
Makes sense. I just think it's much easier to like unload a bunch of games in 4 hours than it is to sit there, posting on Kijiji.
Yeah, and for me, it's been the hassle, the hurdle of, I don't want to be behind a table and handle money and have to remember and count and be the one trying and putting down people's negotiations. And like, I don't actually like negotiating, but when it's through email, I'm much more comfortable. When it's in person, right, I'm more awkward and I screw up, and like I'll put you down. Like you offer me, I'll throw out the lower offer by mistake when I'm trying to sell something. Right? I just screw up, get nervous and screw up.
Yeah.
I don't like doing it in person, but over email,
we'll see. You got your table. You got your table or whatever at Barry. You'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
Don't worry, Matt. I got your back.
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't screw it up too bad. It's pretty easy. I mean, once I started selling at swap meets, and I can't even do them all the time because I don't get enough stuff now to do it. But when I was trying to sell on Kijiji, and I'd make a few sales, and that was fine and dandy and everything. But I just found that people online really, they don't want to pay like what something's reasonably worth. And I mean, Derek, my pricing. I think it's always pretty reasonable. I don't think it's like astronomical or.
Yeah, especially when you're at a swap right next to the people who are selling it for quite a bit more, right? Like you paid to have a table, so you're a little bit justified in going a little bit higher, and you're nowhere near all the rest of the guys. So
yeah. So I mean, and that's the way I price it that way, like on purpose. Like I price it lower than what it's going for. That's why people show up to a meet, right? Like they don't show up to a swap meet so they can pay eBay price. What's the point of that? The only exception to that might be somebody who's buying like a little Samson or something. They want to open up the cartridge and take a look at the board with like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, I was going to say that some stuff that's more rare, or it's going to be in high demand. That's the only exception I can think of too.
Yeah, to have that incentive to buy it there. So
yeah, that's a good point about like table pricing. Like for me, if I go to I go to MagFest or something and I see a bunch of tables where people are selling games, if I can spot a few that are under eBay value, I'm more likely to buy other games there that aren't. So even if there's just a few really good deals at the table, I'm more liable to grab that game and maybe combine it with a few others you have priced just right, because I'm getting some money off, and you have these other games I wanted, and even though they're eBay price, whatever, I'm still saving money in the long run because I get this one that's a little bit cheaper. So I think there's some value in that, man. Some of those tables will just, the whole, it's 10 or 20% above eBay, and I don't understand why people buy that stuff. I guess maybe they're just not as in the know as us diehards, but still. That's
exactly the thing I think of every time is, who pays this? What is going on? And it's got to be just the people who aren't in touch with it, they don't know about price charting, for example, or they don't know how to use eBay to check prices. And it's got to be the people who are just buying on a whim, right?
Yeah,
research put into it.
It's a lot of those people that
they can come to my table. I don't mind, but
that they see an NES or something like that, and like, oh, I remember that, and then they go to like a game store and they just pay whatever. It doesn't matter because they have money to blow, so they spend it on that. And it's like, oh, I could go into EB Games and buy a console and games. So to them, whatever they want to play, right? So they don't care if it's like a little more expensive than what eBay's going for. They can get it right there and they can get home and start playing it. I think that's why they're willing to pay more, but I'm more patient than that.
Yeah. I've seen people like that on Facebook groups and with auctions on Facebook groups where you'll have an NES go up to like $250 with one game and one controller because of the nostalgia and the people who have not been in this world and just, seen it and think, yes, I want that and I have this money now. Mm-hmm. But I find with most of those people, when it's at a Facebook auction, they flake out. They don't show up. They change their mind. They come up with any excuse possible to not actually come buy those things.
Well, yeah, they got in the hype of it's like an eBay thing.
That's true too.
eBay kind of war, and you know the feeling. You go to bid on something, someone bids you up, and you bid them back, and the next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute, I could have bought it now on some other listing, like for $2 cheaper.
I've only done that once, and then I found out about eBay sniping apps.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I won't bid at all until the very end, or I do it and make sure I have a good internet connection and actually click and do it myself. But
so it's probably the same thing with those Facebook groups. I can't even partake in those things.
Yeah, no, I avoid them like the plague now.
Yeah.
Too many people, too many resellers. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we finished that. Yeah. So the next section is a tip corner. We're just trying it out. This is the third time having it, I think, maybe even second. And it's just a place for each of us to kind of share a tip about buying or selling, or even just anything you notice that annoys you when making a deal, buying or selling. So go ahead, Canadian Retro.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk specifically about swap meets, I guess, since we got one coming up here.
And probably what you have experience with, right?
As a seller at a swap meet, and if I want to acquire something, I don't mind paying a little bit extra now. Before you react to that or something, think of it this way. So when I'm saying that is, like, if I'm trading in stuff from my table to a game store, I don't mind if they make a little bit extra on whatever I'm doing, and I know they need to. But I always have this understanding that for each of those items at my table, I probably do not pay more than $5 for each item.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a $60 game and I have it marked at $60, and they kind of have their games marked up, and I want to trade toward that.
Yep.
It's not always a bad thing if you know what you have invested in what you're selling, to take a little bit of a hit on it. It's not a big deal for me as a collector to do that. And from another standpoint, when I'm doing that, when I'm at a swap meet, my intention is to unload everything at that table. I literally don't want anything to do with this stuff. I want it gone. That's why I have a table. That's my purpose for being there, is to get rid of it, either get money or get games, and that's the bottom line.
Yep.
So I don't mind doing that, taking that stuff, taking a little bit of hit, take it to a game store, and they'll clear you out, and you can get a couple of like really high-end kind of things in return for that. And I think that's a really good tip, is to always keep, when you're selling, always keep in mind what you paid for the things that you've got. So don't overvalue the things that you have, because you know what you have in it.
Yeah, that's what I use my spreadsheet for, is keeping track of what I actually paid for, because I'll forget otherwise, right? Yeah, no, it's a good tip. I like it. I'm stuck on your tip and not thinking about what my tip's going to be. Normally, I try and write one down ahead of time, but I just have not had time to do it with preparing for Barry. Yeah, I mean, the tip, I don't know if this is a tip or not, but I tried doing what Jason NJ Retro had recommended on the last episode, and getting a price gun for pricing all my stuff, rather than writing out labels or buying the Dollarama or whatever else, or printing them off, which is what I've done in the past. And I think the price gun I got was just bad. Well, not terrible, but it was leaving like black marks on the letter or on the numbers. It's hard to read them. And then it came with, I think, 200 labels, but I have more than 200 items. So once I ran out of labels, I cannot find more labels for that gun, because the size is quite unique. I'd have to order them online, which of course, 2 days before the swap or 3 days before the swap is not an option. So I don't know what I'm trying to convey, but I would not recommend going out on a whim and buying a crappy price gun at a store, even for $20, without having a line on more labels for it. I was hoping they'd have them in that store, because it would make sense. You sell the price gun, you have the labels there. But it's a surplus store, like originally an Army surplus store. And they've kind of changed over to everything, and it's kind of like a Army surplus dollar store now. And the price gun was a good price, but I just wish I could find some price tags for it. And the ones that came with it also were clearly cheap, because they don't stick very well. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Jason had said he ordered his online. He probably got something a little bit better. Wish I would have waited or done it earlier, but how are you going to go back in time and do that earlier? I'm going to go with that for my tip. Be careful when you're buying a price gun.
I think that tip sort of extends to anything. It's like, be careful when you're buying anything.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that I've picked up at thrift shops that I just utterly regret having picked up. And I, like unloaded them at a garage sale basically to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And out of here because I couldn't sell them and I've had them forever. And turns out I didn't want them because I went to sell them. So
yeah, normally I put more time in or research into something like that, but it's just having waited so long to do it. And I had planned on doing what I did last time, which was print out labels from the computer. But when I did that, I actually had to put a piece of tape over them to get them to stay. And you don't want to be doing that on a box of like, a boxed console. You don't want tape on that if you don't have to. So, yeah. All right. That's mine. And Travis.
My tip, somewhat in jest, but as we talked about, selling games, don't like to haggle with other people, especially if we're setting the price, because I'm a softie. People will come up and say, can you do this on this? And I'm more likely going to say yes, even if I don't want to. But what I do is I price the games in the garage for the yard sale, sleep in, let my wife sell them, and she's very stern. She does not bend. And that's the great thing. So I'll actually make money that way because my wife will not let people buy games for less or bundle them because she's pretty hardcore about yard selling. So that's one tip, sort of in jest, but also I use that tip. Another one, and everyone says this, and I think it's very important, is just get to know the people around you that work in stores that sell games. If you're their friend and you're their ally, they will help you. They're willing to spend money with them. So definitely befriend them as much as you can.
Is that mostly independent stores?
No,
like
where
smaller mom and pop, or you mean like even EB Games,
sure.
GameStop?
No, I don't really. I don't go to EB Games and GameStop.
Okay.
Honestly, most new games I buy digital. Of space, and I don't really have an attachment to them. I really hoard the old stuff for nostalgic, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt to do that too. But in general, yeah, the mom and pop one-off stores, those people they're trying to make money. They're trying to pay rent, and they see you as someone that's willing to spend a lot of money. Be their friend, but also know when and where to haggle. Like a lot of those stores, even if they're not or whatever, if they are a chain or a franchise, they're probably not going to haggle with you, and you asking is probably not going to appeal to them.
Yeah.
It's if you're bundling stuff, always try to bundle and then maybe. But I've seen people just go real hard, and they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, back off. This isn't the place for that. You can some places yes, some places no. But you got to know. You just got to know. Experience will teach you that. Those are my big ones.
Okay, that's good.
Get your wife to yard sale for you. Be nice to people and know where to haggle.
My wife does come yard selling with me. She doesn't usually buy the games, but she is coming with me to sell at Barry too. So maybe that'll help too.
Yeah.
Make her do all
There
the
you go.
negotiations. I've seen lots of guys at game swaps where you ask them to do a deal, because I always ask to do a deal, and they call their wife over and say it's up to her. She's the boss.
That's pretty much what I did at the garage sale we had. I mean, that was selling like random stuff or whatever, not necessarily video games, but I'm just like, go talk to the boss, man. I have no idea. I'm just the mule. Like, I just haul this stuff out of the garage and keep hauling boxes. You go talk to her.
Good.
Yep.
So it works. All right. So moving on to story time. So anyone have a story to tell? We're starting off with me. I'm just gonna talk. I don't know. I don't really need to talk too much about it, but getting ready for a game swap is a lot of work. When you're selling, I did not realize how much it was going to be. I kept thinking it was going to be a lot of work, and maybe I make it more work for myself by keeping a spreadsheet of all the stuff I'm selling and all the prices on it and how much I paid for it. But I had a week off work, and I mean, I have 2 kids. I was helping with my wife with the kids, but still, I didn't get done. I had to spend every evening this week doing it as well. So it's a lot of work, and it was painful. And I still don't know whether I've priced things at a fair price or not. It sucks. I'm worried that I've got things priced too high and nothing's going to sell.
Well, how did you go about pricing things would be the question.
So I started out having my wife help me price things, because I was trying to, test things and clean things. And she was like, what can I do? So I said, just look this up on eBay. So she would look it up on eBay and then go to sold listings, find out what things sold for, and kind of go around average to low end of that, depending on quality or the condition of what we had as well. So, if theirs was in box, we compared in box, or if ours is a little bit scratched, then of course we knock some money off. That was taking too long, obviously, but it worked really well with the weird items, the one-off items. Like I've got a little remote control R2D2 bot that's like 5 or 6 inches tall, and that's a weird, obscure one that we definitely had to look up to figure out what it sells for. We still knew what we probably wanted to sell it for anyway, but it's good to see whether it's crazy high or crazy low, and we're way off. So after a while, because it was taking so long, I just started basically going to price charting, and I was putting the American price, but in Canadian dollars, the same number. If it says $25 American, I put 25 Canadian generally.
Yeah,
which is like a discount, basically.
That's exactly how I do it too, pretty much.
That shouldn't include shipping unless the ones on price charting and eBay are free shipping, so then it's actually included. Or so it shouldn't include shipping, and it's also not American, so it should be that much lower anyway.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the conversion is now.
That should be fine. Like you're basically at 75% the price.
So say 75% and no shipping. So
yeah,
hopefully that makes it good. There were some items that I'm like, okay, I know this is less common. It's going to sell fast. I'm going to put a little bit higher and try and get a deal or try and get an offer on it. I think I did that with the Mario RPG and the Wolfenstein for SNES.
So out of general curiosity, what did you put on RPG?
So the Mario RPG I have...
That's box though, isn't
it? Complete in box. It's got the inserts, like the cardboard insert. It's got the dust cover on the cartridge, and it's got all the little promotional material inside. The cartridge does have wear on the top corner, like that, where the label folds over.
Yeah.
It's got wear across there. So I priced it at $125.
Okay.
And it's got a protective cover on it too. Protective, like those plastic, not hard plastic, but the PTE, PTE ones, dust cover, whatever you want to call it. So I believe I put it at 125, or maybe it was 120. I'm trying to.
You'll see guys there that have the loose cart for like 85. So
yeah, 125.
And that's ridiculous. I think when I priced it, I think I had mine at like, I want to say 60. I had a couple that I've sold at swap meets. I think I had them set for around 60, and they were just loose cart, and they sold like immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna say in that condition, when I was looking for this one, because I was looking to complete the manual, the box of manual, and I even made a little video project out of it where I paid $1 and traded my way all the way up.
Yeah.
To this, so I wanted to complete that box of manual, and now I just want to sell it. But yeah, when I was buying that, I saw a lot of people that had it priced way too high, and then ones where the label was torn to crap and still priced too high. Yeah. And so I think that's a good price, but or an okay price at least for the condition of that cartridge. But
I think that will probably sell pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure of it.
I hope so.
You'll have people come around and try to like get you to knock money off of it like immediately, and I'd just say no at the start. Honestly, I would.
It's knowing when I priced it good enough to say no.
Go around the swap, they're not going to find the same thing for that price, I don't think. So they'll either be smart enough to pick it up immediately, or they will try to haggle you. Say no, let them walk away for 5 minutes because someone else will buy it, and that's basically what happened with me. I had like a bunch of like that kind of end Super Nintendo games, and people came around there trying to get me to knock $5. I'm like, go take a look, man, if you want to walk around the swap and see.
Yeah, I wish I could take a look ahead and scope out the prices and see if I have anything too high or too low.
Yeah. But and then I had guys like running back to my table to get them. Like, sorry, man, already gone. You should have got it when it was good, like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you had it for like 60. These guys got it for like 85. I'm like, well. Yeah. And if you bundled, I would have probably gave you a deal. But.
Even better price.
I'm not in it to like become a millionaire, right? So
all I'm trying to do is recoup back money that I've put into my collection, because I normally don't buy unless I have that surplus money like already paid for from selling things. But right now I'm at an all-time low. I'm $885 in the hole.
Oh,
I don't like it. Normally I'm up like $200 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a perfect opportunity to recoup some of that money. I just hope that it's enough to do it. So total sticker price of everything all added up, $2,887.25.
Nice.
If I sell half of that, I'd be happy. If I sell a quarter of that, I'd probably still be happy.
Your prices are right. It will for sure.
Okay, I hope so.
Don't be too worried about trades or whatever too. Like,
yeah, see, I don't really want trades because I've got everything I want. I've even got more I want to get rid of.
Okay.
Like I've got N64 games I'm probably never going to play. I'm never
But
going to play.
I'm just saying that in the sense of like I've had people come up to my table and it's like, hey, do you want to trade this for this? And I'll just say yes, even if I already have that item. I'm
because
just gonna
you then sell it there. Or?
Yeah, I'll just price it and put it on the table.
Gotcha.
So if you have something that's like, let's say it's super obscure and not a lot of people are interested in it.
Yeah.
But it has some value, and someone comes over and they're really interested in it, and then they're like, hey, we'll give you a copy of like Turtles in Time and some, this kind of thing.
And Pokemon.
Like Pokemon stuff. Like you can sell that no problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of
it'll come to that. It'll come to how common what they want to give me is, and whether I think I can sell it that day or not. Even after, it doesn't need to be that day. I can hold on to a Turtles in Time to sell later, but I doubt that.
Or I'll do it all day long if someone comes over and wants like a bunch of PS2 titles or something, and they're going to give me Super Nintendo titles. I'll trade them and put those out on my table because those will sell instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's good to know. Okay, well, I talked enough. Move on to Travis.
I have a kind of a cool find story. I think I've shared it elsewhere on the internet, but I'll share it again here because I think it's kind of cool. A while back, when I first started collecting, basically when I started maybe around 2010, I didn't think anybody else did it. I thought it was just this thing, and I had this idea. I was like, I will collect video games. No one's probably doing that. I don't know a single person that does this. This will be great. And I thought I'd put a big dent in the collection. I would go on eBay and buy a lot of games and try to beef up the collection a little bit, see what all I could get. I hadn't played a ton of Super Nintendo games. This is mainly around Super Nintendo. I didn't play a ton of those games growing up. I was kind of wanting to get a bunch and fill it out. And my gullible, naive self, I went on eBay and found a lot. It was 100 games for $60 in a box. And it didn't tell me what they were. And in my head, I was like, 100 games, they're probably all different. They'll probably all work. This will be great. And I get the box, and it's about 5 each of every sports game that ever came out for the Super Nintendo. And there was one Mortal Kombat that looked like someone had thrown up on it. And I go through them all, and there's one game in there that I'd never heard of. And I pull it out, and I was like, oh, well, this is cool. This is not a sports game. It was called Final Fight Guy. And I just...
Nice.
I just kind of set it aside because at that point I didn't even know how to check the value for things. I was like, cool. So I have a bunch of sports games and 2 fighting games. Nice. This is neat. By the way, it was 7 years for me to get rid of all those sports games. Yard sale after yard sale after yard sale. My wife was sick of selling those things, but it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later when I finally found price charting that I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, this came in that box. That box I paid $60 for that was all junk. There's like a $250 Blockbuster exclusive, really good condition, no Blockbuster sticker on it or anything, loose cart Final Fight Guy. So that's like, what luck,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is there a lesson to be learned?
Well, no, not really. I wouldn't suggest
do or don't.
Doing that.
I would not suggest doing that. No, that was like winning the lottery. I don't think it would. Many people would ever have that luck. I just got really lucky.
So don't take risks. Don't do what I did.
Yeah.
But if you do, you might get lucky.
But you might get lucky. Yeah.
Or you should have bought lottery tickets that day.
I should have. Well, and like I said, I didn't know until like 2 or 3 years later that I'd even won the lottery. So.
And by then the ticket has expired and you couldn't claim it. No.
Yep.
It's a good one. It's interesting, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I've had similar things happen where it's like someone posts something that they're selling, and I know there's a chance that that's a valuable version of that thing, for example. Or like, let's say a PS3 fat. It could be a good one. It could be a crappy one, right? Could be the backward compatible one that's more desirable. Or I can't remember what else it was that I've had that with. It bothers me that I can't think of it because I just thought of one the other day. But let's say someone's selling an Xbox One controller for $40, and you think, wow, that could be a regular one, or it could be a special edition, or it could be an elite, and they have no photo, they have no details, and it's hard to get a hold of them, but they do, and you go see it, and you happen to be the one who gets the good deal on the elite, for example.
Yeah.
It's sometimes putting the effort in is good, but it's it's hard to say, and you'll never know.
Yep, you'll never know.
Yeah, I can't think of any examples, but I did have some examples I've thought of in the past where it's like, I'm glad I asked more details. But all right, Travis. I mean, not Travis. Canadian Retro.
Yeah. Oh, you wanted me to talk about
your story? Yeah.
About moving.
I was going to say, yeah. Do you want to talk about your current experience of moving your collection?
Okay.
It's a unique point of view that not everybody goes through, and some people really dread ever going through.
Well, I mean, I'm really dreading it. My new game room's not going to be as nice as this one. It's just the nature of it's a bigger house, but a smaller game room, basically, is the way it's going to work out. As far as moving it, I'm not too old. I mean, I've spent, I don't know, a week worth of nights, like, just going through stuff, and I purged so much junk that I had. Like, I had bins just full of stuff that would make some collectors just absolutely cringe the way I kept it. Just like those gigantic containers of just like wires and knickknacks and doodads, and I had broken systems and just all that kind of thing. And yeah, I purged them. I really did. Like I sat. And I know for some of you, again, you're probably going to cringe at this, but I had like a bunch of broken controllers, broken this, and I came to the realization that I do not have the time in my, elderly state that I'm in at these days. Like, I just do not have the time. I barely have time to play the video games, let alone sit there fixing, N64 controllers and all this kind of stuff.
I can relate, but I
have
love
a couple of buttons.
Controllers. I don't know what's wrong with me. I love taking a broken controller and fixing it.
I like playing video games. I don't even get enough time to do that. So I took all that stuff and I chucked it in the garage. So I told people that this stuff didn't work, and they were all over it. They were just like, oh, because they want to fix it, and they know they can probably turn that bag into a couple $100, but it's not worth the time. If I want a couple $100, I can probably figure out a better way of doing it that won't take like 17 hours to fix all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I purged a lot of stuff. I took every single wire that I had and I categorized it. Like, so I have like a Ziploc bag now of like, Super Nintendo or that kind of style AV cords. I have a bag now of this, a bag of that. And I basically just like Kijiji away, I think, or in a Facebook group, away a bunch of like Xbox 360 consoles that like nobody really wants, like the white fat type versions and stuff. And I unloaded a lot of that. And that has been very liberating and really eased a lot of burden in my life, I think, just like unloading the stuff. And I know I'm a collector of junk, and I have like, over 2,000 video games in my collection. That kind of stuff was really holding me back, I think. And it was always like a constant thought of mine. I'm just like, oh God, that stuff behind the shelves here that like,
secret.
Yeah, and it's just like, I just went through, but I spent that time and I went through and I bagged up everything, and now they have a special like spot when I go to the new house. They're going to be like, they'll be in the garage, but they'll be like in a bin in the garage, and I'll know exactly where it is. And if I need a PS2, AV cord or something like that, I'll know exactly where it is because the bag's labeled and the whole bit. So that part of it's been a pain because it took me forever to do it. I spent nights just like with rubber bands and cords, basically. But that was pretty good. As far as packing up my collection, my renovation on the new house that I'm moving into has been put on hiatus just because the city decided to poke their head in there a little bit, and there's nothing illegal going on except for they want like more specific permits for things and blah blah blah. And with governmental organizations, this stuff takes time. So
yeah, they're real fast.
That is, they are not fast, and they have no particular interest in moving fast for you.
Yeah.
So that's put moving of my collection like on hold basically at this point. So I've stopped packing it up. And in fact, I need to unpack everything. Not the stuff that I packed up as far as like the extras, But as far as my video games, I already packed up my NES collection. I packed up my Genesis collection. I packed up Master System collection, and maybe a couple other things. I can't totally remember off the top of my head. But
the ones you did videos on, right? Wasn't it?
I didn't pack all those things up, so I made some of those videos, and then I put the stuff back on the shelf because I said I was going to make those videos, and I haven't even finished making all those videos because I've been busy. But so now some of those things are in bins, and I said this on the Hangout, so anybody listening to that before probably has heard the story a couple of times. But when the stager came in, which is a person who basically tells you, like, they could stage your house for you when you go to sell it, the stager came in, looked at the house or whatever, and took her through the different floors of the house. She's like, put a picture here and take that thing out of the washroom and add something here and put a flower there and like that kind of stuff. She said, okay, let's go into the basement. And I'm like, oh goodness, lady, like, you are in for one interesting thing. Like, I thought she was just going to be like, get rid of all this stuff. You're going to, like, crowded mess kind of thing. And my game room was like, at that point, was perfectly clean. It's actually messy again because I started packing everything up.
Yeah.
But like, it was like perfect the way it was. I think I took a picture of it and I did my game room tour and then trashed it again, basically after I cleaned it. But she came down here and she said that this is like the coolest basement she's seen. And that's not just including my game collection. It's just the way we designed this basement. It has things in like specific spots. There's like little work areas. There's little storage. There's everything down here. Like, cause we particularly designed that way. She's like, you'll sell this house, but she's like, you got to put your collection up. And I said, I'll put it up for the pictures when they come to take pictures, but I'm not leaving my collection up for random people walking through my house that want to copy Earthbound.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like now I've binned up probably like a third of my collection, I'd say, maybe a little less than a third of my collection. I have to unbin all of it, put it back on the shelf, and clean this all, like clean the whole room again, and then they can do their photography. So I'm basically going to pack up twice.
It's great
at this point because I thought she would want it gone, so I started packing it up, and then she's like, no, keep it. So
it makes sense, but it's also disappointing.
Yeah. But at least I know how to pack it up. So as far as advice,
the first time was just practice.
Yeah. So as far as packing it up, keep it alphabetized. Is a good idea in your bins. Get nice pieces of cardboard to separate each layer and start packing away. That's the way I did it, and it seems to be working out so far.
Yeah, I did foam and cardboard for some of the stuff I'm taking to bury, like controllers. I don't want things on top of the sticks for the arcade joysticks or the GameCube controllers. Yeah. So I put a chunk of foam, piece of cardboard, and then the next layer.
I used old garage sale signs.
I used pizza box.
So it was pretty handy because we just had the garage sale like the weekend before.
Yeah.
So I was like, keep all the signs.
I've seen people make remote control airplanes out of those signs.
Same material, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's packing up and moving, but basically try to keep it organized, have a place to keep it would be good, that's safe. So I actually am going to be putting my collection in a friend's house that I trust very much and is immediately down the street.
So not my house.
Yeah, no one that actually has an interest in video games.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea. It's like, hey, Grandma, do you mind holding on to this for me?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
So they're gonna give me their basement, and I'll put as many boxes as I can in it.
I'll start renting out their basement, with all your stuff in it. All right, moving on to questions/discussion. This is something we kind of I've asked everybody, since everybody I've had so far has been a new guest. Do you track your purchases and sales? We'll start off with Travis.
I do track my purchases. I am a big nerd for spreadsheets.
Oh yeah,
you might have picked up from collect calls and whatnot. I'm a scientist by trade, so just spreadsheets, I just love them. I'll just make a spreadsheet of anything and just sort it and resort it and filter it and refilter it and sort it again. So it's kind of part of that love. I have, the whole library of like all the games released, and then the color coded about what I have or not, and then I have some VB code from VB script that pulls in price charting, and then I got the date I bought it, where I bought it, how much I bought it for, yada yada yada, all that stuff. Spreadsheet for every console, tabs for accessories, totals, want list that I send to my wife sometimes to see if she's paying attention. The whole thing. Mainly Google Sheets is kind of the way I go, because I can access them anywhere and I can get them on my phone. But recently, and I was going to plug these guys later, and I don't even know, you're talking about like the Canadian dollar, and I don't know if this website works or is specifically functional in Canada, but gamevaluenow.com. So it's sort of
actually you can change it to Canadian pricing, but I think it just takes the American and then converts it over.
Okay. Yeah. So the guy that runs that site, I've been in recent contact with too, and he's extremely friendly, and it's sort of rivaling price charting a little bit. Price charting has some strengths, game value has some strengths, but I like that one because I can put my collection in, and I can add, whether I have the manual. As a loose collector, it's important to me that I can add if I have the manual or not or whatever. I don't think it's particularly strong for people that collect variants, or if you want to add what in terms of hardware, I don't think it tracks that. It's specifically games, so it's for a certain type of collector, but it works well for me. And so I've been using that in tandem with the spreadsheet. So there's a lot of repeat information, but I mean, I love getting like a haul of games, like going on a yard sale hunt or going to a store and coming home, going through what I paid for, entering all that stuff in.
So do I.
Yeah, exactly. And you got your little percentage there that shows how far along you're on your goal, and it's just look at that number go up. So
goals. I don't do any full collections. I'd never do a full systems games, but I definitely love when I get something new, start typing everything in, entering in how much I paid, and look up what it's worth. Yep. I love it. That's awesome. I had heard that you liked spreadsheets. Now, I may need your VB script that looks up the price for you, because that would save me some manual effort.
Yeah, it's been a little clunky lately. Some days you'll get on there and it'll just say, error can't be found, and some days you'll get on there and actually work. I don't know if it's because the number of people using gets bogging down the servers or whatever. I think, and it's all pulling from price charting. So talking to the guy from GameValueNow.com, I think he's trying to leverage it to make it possible for people to use his site for that as well. So that might be something you can look into. But yeah, I'd be happy to send you what I got.
Yeah, I would love to see it at least and see how it works. I mean, it maybe not work for me at all because I'm Canadian, or I may need to at least multiply it to get Canadian value. But yeah, it would be interesting. I hadn't even thought of doing something like that, because the last time I tried messing around with scripts in Google Sheets, I did not have fun with it. It was like the script was shared across all your sheets, and it was not enjoyable. Whatever I did wrong made it not good. And I've done VB script in Excel before, and had a lot of luck and done it right. And I love VB altogether too. But yeah, interesting. Okay, so as you said, you already track it, spreadsheets. Do you have any statistics? Any fun statistics from your spreadsheets?
On occasion I will, because I started my spreadsheets well after I started collecting, so unfortunately it's not complete in terms of what I paid for versus what it's worth. But I do like to look at that stuff, so I'll occasionally sort it just to see what percentage I'm paying. And it's interesting that over the years, as if you go from where I started just tail end of college, and then now I kind of have an established career, so my income has grown. I'm married now, I have a house, and you can see the percentage I'll pay in relation to full price has slightly gone up over the years. I'm more willing to pay a little bit more, and I'm going to try to regress on that. I don't like that trend. So, but I have noticed. So there's some statistics that straighten me out every now and then. I'm like, oh no, let's not do that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. And having the value there is what allows you to do that. Whereas with mine, I need to bring the value in manually for everything. I also need to definitely separate out my item. Like I have an item name, and in there I'll put the name of the game, what system it's for, whether it's loose or complete, and the condition all in one field. And I really need to break that out. But but for my existing spreadsheet that is 2,658 items, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, the hateful thing with the VB script is the naming convention, especially if you're pulling from price charting. The naming convention has to be exactly as they have it on price charting. So sometimes that'll break up your alphabetization because the these will be swapped, to the end or whatever. So that can be obnoxious. So if you already have a list of games, you'll spend a lot of time going through and naming them right. Or you can import the SKU number, and so sometimes you can look it up by that, and that's obviously a little bit better. But not all games have SKU information, so yeah, it's a hobby in and of itself just to maintain the document, much less collect.
Yes, it can be. Sometimes it's fun, but when you start spending too much time on it, it's not enjoyable.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many total games you have? If you don't mind answering. I don't know. I can kind of just try and ask anyone who tracks it. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I can.
It really matters, but
I know. I can actually look the number up real quick. And again, I'm going to plug Game Value now because I took the time to put all of my games in there, so I might as well.
Yeah, I like the site. I'm looking at it. Like, I'm glad to see price charting have some kind of competition. Maybe they'll make them improve their free service a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like JJ. He runs that, and I like Rick, who runs. I mean, they're both great guys. They're in competition with each other, so I don't know. They probably do hate each other, but for competition.
My dad used to work on a bread route, and I always thought that we hated the guys who sold the other kind of bread. And then he's like, sees the guy and waves hi, and I'm like, you're supposed to hate him.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how this works. He's like, no, he's a good guy. I'm like, damn it.
I think it's when people have like a shared passion, right? Like even if you're in competition. I mean, otherwise all game collectors would hate each other because we're all in competition, essentially.
Yeah. I do hate thrift store find threads on Reddit when someone's like, look at what I found in Goodwill, and it's like 6 Earthbounds. I do hate that person, but I get what you're saying.
It's pretty focused, yeah.
So yeah, pulling it up here, it gives me my total games, my total collections tracked, and my collection value. And the collection value doesn't have hardware in it, so it's a little bit misleading. So total games, like hard games, 1,771. That's across 27 different platforms for a collection value of 18,388.
Cool. All right. Oh, that was the last question for that section. So
yes, nobody rob me, please.
Yeah, exactly. That also leads me to the next question of, do you have extra insurance for your collection? I didn't do anything, but
that's something that I really want to look into on collect.
In terms of theft, I mean, in terms of fire. We're not encourage people to steal, but I mean, there's a fire or flood. Yeah,
that's something I want to look into, and I've been asking, even on my collect calls, and this podcast here is formatted similarly, where we're just asking each other for tips and trying to find out new things. It seems like everyone that I've interviewed who always seem to have a bigger collection than me, they're like, oh yeah, it's insured, like no brainer. Like, what are you doing, idiot? So it's something that I definitely need to look into, like starting soon. I need to do, I don't even have life insurance, but I will put my collection, I'll insure it well before I do myself.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. And so can you retro? You got
yeah.
Do you track anything?
I do, and not to the degree that you nerds do, but I do track my purchases in the sense where I do my YouTube channel, obviously, and I show everything I pick up.
Yep.
So I do pick up videos. I document what I paid for it on those videos, and then I show what their value was at the time. And I find that even more interesting than knowing what current values are, just to know what something was worth at the time that I picked up. To look back at some of the games that I've picked up, even like in the last, like, say 4 years, it's amazing to go look at those old videos and be like, oh, that thing was worth like $30 and now that game's worth like 75, and like just to be like, wow, that's kind of interesting, like how that's changed for that one or whatever.
Yeah. And you get curious why that game, what happened?
I mean, really, the reason why I started my YouTube channel is because I didn't want to keep a spreadsheet because it's too arduous. It's easier to make a video and edit it, in my personal opinion. So that's really why I did it, and I just kind of kept going with that. So as far as tracking my purchases, though, or like, I don't know if it's about tracking my purchases. I do track my collection. I have a video game app that works on the computer and on the phone. It's just sorted apps, I think it's called. And it's,
that's what I use as well.
Video, yeah. So I can just scan games if they have barcodes or whatever into the collection. You can edit the edit them and everything like that. It tells you how many games are in your collection. You can sort it, refine it, all those kind of things. So it does pretty much everything that I want it to do. The one thing it doesn't do right now is I want to export my collection so I can put it into video games now.
Oh, okay.
It's a website.
It does have export though.
I haven't found the option to do it. I haven't gone all crazy looking for it.
Are you on Android?
I am on Android. I might be able to do it there. I couldn't do it on the computer when I looked at it the other day.
I've done it from the phone before.
I just found it interesting that you guys were talking about the video games now kind of thing. I just like found it the other day, never heard of it before. And I was like, I want to use this because this is better than this is better because it like it shows the values and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
right
true.
there.
That's the one thing I find that most apps are missing is the actual values, some kind of lookup.
Yeah.
So if you in the Android app, you hit the ... you go to options, and then near the bottom, second from the bottom is export, and you can choose what format you want to export it to.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I've done that because I've considered moving to other ones several times, like the collectors app that everybody always talks about, and I can't remember what the other one is, Cloud something. I don't know, but I've never wanted to take that step to moving the whole collection over. I mean, mine's only like 400 games or somewhere around there, so it's not crazy. But it's still a lot of manual work to make sure the fields map over and make sure that it's the right freaking game, because a lot of them on the sorted apps I find are not great. There's a lot of duplicates.
I make sure it's pretty accurate, and I always go in and change the USA thing to Canada.
There's been lots where I've had to actually add the photo myself because they don't have a photo.
Oh yeah, I've had a few that I've had to add photos myself, where you can, but it has that option if you're on your phone to do a search for it. So sometimes you can find it. I mean, sometimes there just isn't photos of that stuff on the internet, which is kind of interesting, but they're not there. Yeah. So that's what it is, you know. As far as like spreadsheets and stuff, I don't really do that. I kind of started doing that, like when I was selling on Kijiji. I would, what did I pay for it? What I like, just to make sure I was sort of not losing my shirt on everything, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I just stopped with it. Like I basically know what I pay for it. You want to know what I pay for a game? $5, because I go to thrift shops and that's what they charge. So I don't need
unless you use the coupon and you got 30% off.
Yeah, or whatever. But I know basically when I look at everything, I'm like, I paid $5 for that. I paid $5 for that. I generally know that. So that's pretty much how I keep track of that. And I know when I buy stuff that, unless I had something, I'm like, I'm going to add this to the collection. I really want it. If I'm going to use it for resale, it's got to be 3 times the value. So if it's not $15 or more, and I'm even iffy on that, like if I see a PS2 game that's worth $15 for $5 at a thrift shop, I won't necessarily pick it up.
Yep.
If I saw a Super Nintendo game that was worth $15, I might.
Yeah, I've been kind of living by the 3 times value as well.
So I started doing about the 3 times value thing.
I had explained that
like 2 years ago.
People.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I started out with double, and then I realized that I make mistakes sometimes. Yeah. Games aren't as good a condition as you think they are when you're looking at it in someone's house about to buy it, or in a thrift store. You get it home and you're like, crap, this is scratched up bad, or the manual's missing, I didn't check, or I didn't even open the case because it was a garage sale and it was $1. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I always go for the 3 times because that gives me 1 time to cover my ass and another time to actually make some profit if I go to sell it. Well, even if I'm buying it for myself, I usually do that. There are times I've splurged, and when I started splurging was pretty much when I started going in the hole on my budget. So
yeah, so as far as having any like interesting statistics about it, I don't, because I don't really keep stats. I mean, I do know the number of games in my collection, but I don't really keep like stats on that. If you want to know that number, like, is it that moment where I can say that number?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let me just pull it up here. It's 2000.
Ready. Okay.
2091.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. And some of those are doubles, so it depends. Like, because in some cases I have a loose copy and I'll have a complete copy, like of an NES game or something like that. But that's the total number of games in my collection.
Have you done any extra like house insurance on that stuff yet?
No, I haven't, but I'm considering it for the new house.
Yeah,
I probably will. Although I will probably downsize my collection because it's not all going to fit in my new game room.
I was wondering that because you said you got rid of these cords and extra junk, and I wondered if that was all you had to do, or do you have more to trim out yet?
I have to trim out. I'm probably going to trim out like PS2, 360, maybe some GameCube, that kind of thing. Probably I could do a little bit of trimming on my PS1 collection. as well.
Gotcha. Yep. So you'll be selling the swap sometime.
Yeah. I'll be getting a table probably at the next one. It just wasn't really timely. I got to see what fits in the new game room.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep all my cartridge stuff. I mean, that's where it seems to me that I just keep going back to cartridges. So as far as what I'm playing, and I don't find like I power on the PS3. I don't find I power on my 360 except for when my son's playing Lego Dimensions. So.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And me. So I've already talked about this every single time, but spreadsheet, blah, 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 blah. My total games, I've stopped tracking the games in the actual app. Just got to be much of a hassle when I'm doing the spreadsheet in the app. What I'd like to do is have a page, a tab in the spreadsheet that does my current collection. So anything that I've marked in my master list as I'm keeping, I'd like to have automatically add to another tab of the things that I'm actually keeping. But that's another refinement for the spreadsheet another time. All right, moving on. We've got listener questions, and I tweeted out hashtag DD answers if anyone had any questions for us, and we got a few questions. So this will be for me and you guys to answer. And first one is from RetroPixel at RetroPixel on Twitter, and he says, "At what point do you decide to give up on asking market value and liquidate for dirt cheap inventory not moving?" So Troy, you probably have the most experience.
Yeah, so I've done exactly that. Now I've have different ways of doing that. I basically see what's left of what I have after a swap meet. And a lot of times there's like $10, $15 games kind of thing. I put a lot of those games I put into those little packages. I don't know if you've seen, did you buy one of those? Yeah.
No, I didn't. I meant to, and I just kept forgetting.
Yeah, the extra life packets for the live stream. So that was liquidate for dirt cheap. And I originally didn't think of that idea, and I had all that stuff. And there's decent quality stuff in there. Like I said, there's like $15, $20 games in there. It just, they didn't sell at the swap meet, and I didn't want to take the time, and I really just wanted to unload them. So I took them to a pawn shop. They offered me, I want to say they offered me like about $60 for 100 games. And I said, and I walked away. I went into a game store. They offered me 65. And I said absolutely not. And there was customers in there like laughing as I was walking away with the box. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I have no rapport with this store. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a fool, right? So I was willing to unload. I was taking it to a store to unload it. They weren't even offering me anything reasonable, so I walked away. And no matter what, I was going to take a hit on it, it looked like. So I then tried to liquidate the stuff on, I think, like a GG kind of post or a Facebook group.
Okay.
So I put like the 100 games, I said like $100, I think, for the 100 games. And there was at least $500 of value there. Like, not all the games were top quality. Some of them were dirt cheap ones, but for the most part, like I said, they're $12, $15 range kind of games, maybe a couple more kind of thing. And I got completely ripped apart on Facebook posts by people. They're like, I'll give you 65 for it. I'll give you whatever. And I was like, no, 100 is good. Like, this is a good deal for it. I know what this stuff's worth. And they're like, you've got trash there, blah, blah, like this kind of thing. And people were kind of like jumping in and going, actually his price is like killer good. What's your problem? Like, kind of thing. And they kept going like, fine, I'll give you like 85. That's my final offer. I'm like, I wasn't accepting any offer coming from you.
Yeah.
With that kind of attitude. And then I kind of thought of it. I'm like, okay, what can I do with this stuff to make it like benefit something? And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to put them in those blind bags and sell them. So you get, like. Did
you see that idea somewhere else, or you come up with it on your own?
I just came up with that on my own. I just thought it's a good way to generate funds and get people interested from the swaps or whatever. So I think I made like 12 of them. I think I have 5 left, but I'm going to bring them to Barrie, and I'm sure some of those guys that we're meeting up with there are going to be interested. It's like a way to basically do a donation to Extra Life to the sick kids hospitals.
Yep.
And at the same time, get something for yourself. Like, you're going to get $40 worth of games pretty much, in there, maybe 30 US, of course.
Yeah. See, I noticed with your videos, you always do the U.S. price on your price already, even though you give the price you paid in Canadian. So it's actually even worth more than you say.
Yeah, I know. That way I keep myself safe from haters or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So people are like overvaluing it, because if any American watcher, if I change it to the Canadian price, they're like, this game doesn't go for that much, and I'd be answering that question constantly.
Yeah. Or saying Canadian.
Yeah.
I apologize for my people.
Yeah, you are outnumbered here.
As far as like liquidating stuff, like I said, like I dumped a bunch of stuff at garage sales, just absolutely dirt cheap. I wanted it gone, and my life's better for it. In some cases, I don't recommend doing that with your box copies of Earthbound, but if you have like stuff that's just of marginal value and you do not want it, there are ways to donate it. Don't take it. Don't put it on a Facebook group and say willing to give it to any needy family kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not going to go to a needy family.
It's not going to go to a needy family that way.
No.
But the way I've done it, it's going toward the charity. So
yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I did do something similar. One time I had a bunch of extra stuff, like a Guitar Hero kit set, like drums and guitar, and some random games. And then I had a Game Boy Advance SP, the Glacier one, just loose. And I remember, I think I put $20 on the Game Boy Advance, thinking someone's going to offer me less or whatever it was. I can't remember for sure. And some kid comes by and offered me, I think I put 15 and he offered me 7. I'm like, whatever. He's just a kid. I just want to get rid of this damn thing. No one else is buying it. I don't want a Game Boy Advance. Sorry, it wasn't an SP. Normal Game Boy Advance Glacier. That's my mistake. Anyway, there's no backlight. It's a pain in the ass to use. I just want it gone. So I sell it to the kid. He's on his bike. So I'm like, he must live somewhere nearby. Not 2 hours later, I see a post on Kijiji for the same thing for $30.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
And it's the next neighborhood over. So I'm like, that's got to be the same kid. Ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I've seen stuff.
I think it had the same batteries in it that I left batteries in. Yeah. Regret. But it's gone, so whatever.
He probably never sold it though at the same time. That's market kind of value.
Yeah. All right. Travis, do you have any thoughts on this too, or?
I don't actually. I'll pass.
That's completely fine. I figured you might not.
Well, because if it doesn't sell anything, it's hard to liquidate what you don't sell. Anything.
All right. Next question is from Cartridge Bros P2 on Twitter. What are your thoughts on repro labels? Would you pay less for a cart with one, and would you charge less if someone was selling one? So, Travis?
I don't care for repro labels. I think I do collect loose, so labels are kind of at the forefront of my visual display of my collection. But I would rather have a tattered, a little bit of a manual with a little bit of wear on it, or I'm sorry, a label with some wear on it, just to add character than to have a repro personally, as authentic as possible. And it's nothing against someone that might, prefer repro labels. If you want, that's fine. But for me personally, I'm just not into it. So I probably wouldn't buy a game with one, even if it were a high-end game that was, a little less for the repro label. I think I'd rather just have that authentic label personally.
And Game Retro, what do you think?
I'm sort of in the same boat. I'm not a big fan of repro labels. I don't have any games that I'm aware of that have repro labels on them. As far as like paying for a cart with one, it really would depend. Like if I want to play a game, I want to play a game. So I'm not totally against it. It's dodgy kind of business, I think, repro labels. People trying to sell things as legit when they're not. Those types of things. Yeah. So that's sort of my thoughts on them. I'm not into them. I wouldn't make them myself. My reproduction labels, if some label is like completely gone on something, I've just taken like a gigantic white sticker and like written on it. So that's
and draw a picture.
I would call that a repro label because you're not reproducing anything.
Yeah. It's a white label.
Label. So as far as paying for a cart with one, I don't know. Like I've never been in a position where I've been like, oh, that's a reproduction label thing. Am I going to buy that or not? I haven't. So I don't know if I would definitely pay less. It's not worth as much to me if it's a reproduction label on it.
It's almost equivalent to having no label at all, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, and if something has no label at all, I can understand printing off a label for it. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. And that's that's a scenario where I've actually ordered some repro labels from a guy in the States that I saw on Instagram that made them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. Anything else?
And just like if I was selling one, again, I wouldn't. So I don't know. I mean, if I did, I would let someone know, and I would not charge as much for it, obviously, if I did that. I mean, I have games that I am bringing to Barry that have some pretty ratty labels. Like I got a copy of Double Dragon 3 that like half the label's missing on it, but I'm not going to change the label on it. Somebody wants to do that, that's their own business. I'm going to leave it as legit as it is. It was in my collection until I found a better copy, so I keep things as is until the only thing that I have put a reproduction kind of thing on was I do have one GameCube game that does not have its original artwork. It has the original manual and the disc is like legit and everything.
Yep.
But I was sort of in a position, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this because I can't put a blank case like into my collection because I'll never know what it is
I have
by
a couple
looking at it. So I printed off the artwork for the case.
Gotcha.
Yeah, actually, I do that a lot with the DVD games too, and I don't really see that as the same thing because I don't know. There's something sacred about a cart and something not as sacred about a PS2 case. I guess I don't know what it is. I separate those in my head, but I guess there's a difference between the stickers and the insert. You're not really, defacing the game permanently. You're just, replacing that plastic.
Now, if it's a repro label or repro like artwork on a case, do you think it should say repro on it?
I do.
I think if your intention is to sell it, absolutely.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Are you keeping it or selling it? Yeah.
Yeah. If you're putting it in your own collection, who cares? Because you know it is. I know exactly what game it is that has that case. So
I had a Pokemon Sapphire with no label at all. And I had a repro created partly just to see how repros were, because they looked good on Instagram. They were terrible. But with Pokemon Sapphire, there's no reflection to it when you get a repro label. At least this quality repro label. There was none of that, incandescent or whatever you want to call it, the shine. So I wasn't worried about someone not knowing it was a repro label and did not say repro on it. But it was also badly cut, and I was disappointed with the quality label. But when I sold it, I did, clearly say reproduction label. It's the same as having no label, and I priced it as if there was no label at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the only experience I have with it. Okay, moving on to the next question. Musty Hobbit said, thoughts on Frankensteining together a case, CD-style ones in particular. Is this okay or problematic, not authentic? So like a PlayStation game with a CD case, or I would almost say even a TurboGrafx, if you take out the insert, I think you can swap it, can't you? I've never even had a TurboGrafx game, so
I don't know.
Sure, but
I don't know about TurboGrafx in the slightest.
Okay. So let's say original PlayStation game, taking an audio case and audio CD case, putting that on. Anything wrong with that? Do you think, Travis?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I think, sort of like I said about the PS2, if you're just swapping out the art, you're not really permanently changing the game at all. I don't really have a problem with it. Like this Legend of Dragoon that I have that's busted on one side, I'm totally going to get my spare Gran Turismo 2 and swap this out, and just so that it has a functional case without the giant crack on the side.
What if it was an audio CD case that you swapped in that just had to be the same?
I don't care. I mean, as long as it works the same way, as long as the art fits in there the same, I know.
What if you're reselling it?
I don't know. I don't operate that way. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I guess.
I think the next question is then, what if it's a very valuable game? Let's say a $100, $200 game.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. And the reason I don't know, I guess, is because I've never really met anyone specifically within the PS1 collecting realm that's really tied to it enough to tell me whether or not that circle of people appreciate that or not. I mean, they may be like, yeah, we swap them in and out all the time. Or they might say like, oh no, wag their finger at you. So I just don't know. I don't know enough people to smack me on the hand to tell me not to do it.
If there is a no, I would assume there's a reason. Like, let's say Sony never had variation in those cases. There were not differences in where the plastic little clips are or anything like that. Say they're all exactly the same and nothing else came close. Or quality was different, maybe even the tabs broke off less often or something like that, then I could see an argument like that making sense.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd want to see why they think so. Because if you can't tell the difference in any way, then what's the point?
Yeah, why not boost it up? I mean, if they made, you know, the Sega Saturn cases, if they remade those now to where you could get them, because I don't think you can find them now with like the same quality or whatever. I mean, I would totally switch out most of my old Sega Saturn stuff that's in busted up cases just to have those, you know, nice ones that don't just peel apart in 5 different locations. So, I mean, personally, I don't have that problem, but yeah, I could, you know, if you're really into the collecting it, maybe you do.
And K Retro, what do you think?
I'm sort of. I mean, if I have a PS1 game and its case is smashed up, I have no problem taking apart like Little Kids Zone 93 that is factory sealed. That I got like out of someone's basement because I was like, hey, are you going to use those CD cases for anything? Like, I'm pretty sure you're not going to load up like, you know, Office 97 or something like that or whatever, just whatever versions those are. But that case is perfect, you know, and from looking at it and comparing it to a PS1 game, they're identical. There's nothing spectacularly something about it. It's not like as far as I know, that like those Sony cases are Sony branded or something like that. It's not like a GameCube case where it says like Nintendo in it or something like that. That I'm a little more particular about. Although I do have one that I noticed when I did my collection the other day that is in a Blockbuster case. So I got to find out a replacement case for that.
I have replacement cases I'm going to bury.
All right, give me one because I need to swap that out. That's kind of like bothering me. But as far as like, the CD stuff, like if you know, why not put to use those media that no one's ever going to use, like Little Kids Bible verse or something like that nobody ever opened and it came in the mail. And
I saw at a thrift store, sorry, at a garage sale, someone had a box full of these CDs that were factory sealed. I picked it up and it even had a clear bottom in it below the CD, just like a PlayStation where you can see the artwork behind. And they were in plastic factory sealed. There's a whole box of them. I think I grabbed 3 and I took them home, gave my brother-in-law because he has more PlayStation 2 games than me. Or sorry, PlayStation 1 games than me. And he definitely put them to good use. And I was tempted to grab the entire box.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I when I see that, I grab them. Yeah. I'm not gonna grab like from a thrift shop, pay their CD price for like a single CD, but if there's like a box of empty cases or something like that are in their plastic, I'm good to go because I got a lot of PS1 games that probably could use a little bit of love, and I think you're doing the collecting aspect, you're doing someone a service, not a disservice by doing that. Because those are generic cases. There's nothing special about a PS1 case.
Yeah.
Unless you get into long box variants and all that kind of stuff. That's different, but
Great. Next question from Steven Eider. Why do people spend more time talking about buying and selling games than talking about the games themselves? What do you think, Canadian Retro?
Well, we spend a lot of time doing that, but I've been directed in what I can talk about in this podcast. So I like to talk about playing video games. I don't think I do that very much on my channel as much as I'd like to, but I think at the same time when I'm doing, say, pickup videos, I'm showing, I mean, that's how my channel kind of started, was doing that. And, you know, if I have like 20 items, I don't think people would appreciate the 3-hour episode of Canadian Retro Pickups. Me talking about my experience with this and what it plays like and all that kind of stuff. If people are looking for that, there's tons of reviews on YouTube. They can go check out a game. If I recommend, like on my channel when I'm showing something, I go check out a review of this game. It's really cool if you haven't seen it before, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I don't really go into that kind of detail necessarily. As far as, you know, spending more time talking about buying and selling games than playing them, probably because I spend more time buying and selling games and cleaning them than actually playing them. Sometimes I feel like I'm more of a curator of a museum than I am a video game player. At times, I'd like to believe that I'm not, but I probably spend more time cleaning than I do playing. So that's just like a true fact kind of thing that I can't deny because I only speak the truth.
Okay. All right, Travis, what do you think?
I think Steven's pulling our leg a little bit by asking this, but I'd like to direct him to a podcast that talks about playing games. It's called Polykill. You can find it on Podbean and everywhere else. But no, I think sometimes buying and selling certain games are more fun than certain games. And that's a reason why I enjoy that.
Events.
Yeah, there you go. It's and I've said this a couple times to different people, but it's a multifaceted hobby, right? There's the gaming aspect of it, there's the buying and collecting, and then there's like the displaying, just looking at what you got. So it's a three-pronged hobby. They actually barely overlap. They only overlap because it's the same media, but it's they fulfill different things. So I could talk about all of it for forever. Thankfully, Derek, like Troy said, relegated us to these specific topics. But yeah,
I loved the way you split that up in the forums. It was insightful. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I had thought of two, but the displaying never really occurred to me because it's not really something I do. But anyway, moving on. What do I think? I honestly consider buying and selling games to be a hobby for me. Playing games is something I have less time for. Buying and selling, I mean, I can be at work looking at Kijiji and find a deal, and then take my lunch break or a morning break or whatever and go buy the thing. But I can't really play games when I'm at work. It's much more difficult for me to do that. There's more time investment. It's more noticeable. And I really enjoy the hunt for the games. And that's the part of your, the second one of your three-prong approach here. I really enjoy hunting for the games, finding a deal, the challenge of finding a certain game. I have games that I've heard they existed, heard they were hard to find, thought it's kind of a neat concept. I don't know if I'll ever find it. And then I see it and I just get the desire to have it because it exists and I didn't know before it existed and I don't see it very often. And then I end up buying two and then I sell one or try to sell one and no one else cares about it as much as I do. So that happens. It's okay. Moving on. We got another question from Frantic Society on Twitter. Another member of the Cartridge Club. What's your guilty pleasure game in your collection? I never even thought about the answer to this yet.
No, I haven't either, and I don't feel guilty. I don't feel guilty about anything.
There's nothing you're like,
absolutely shameless.
Just like you don't lie. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I could think of something. I mean, the game that kind of got me started with collecting again was Battle Tanks Global Assault, and it's not really a good game. It's made by 3DO. It's for for N64. It's not a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but I really loved playing it multiplayer as a kid, kind of like the GoldenEye feeling. Playing with my friends, just shooting the hell out of each other. And that one also had bots, so you could work together against them. I don't think there was actually a team play though, but still. It's kind of a guilty pleasure in a way because it's not a good game, really. It's fun, but I think Tank 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 on Wii U is a much better version of the same kind of game. Which Tank 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 is another example of a game that I really wanted to have, but I don't really need, and I have it. Okay, and Travis?
Yeah, I think mine, it's a guilty pleasure for kind of a different reason, I guess, than what he was asking, but it's because I paid a lot of money. Even though I got it for a good deal, I still paid a lot of money on the Action 52 for the NES, which is just a pile of crap. But it's still like, it's such a cool collection piece, and it's not many people have it. And I can pop it in and make people watch and look and see how bad it is, and we can all giggle about it. And that's great. And that's kind of a fun thing about it. It's always like a social thing. It's like, first of all, can you believe what they sold this for? And also, can you believe how crap it is? And then I don't tell them what I paid for it, because that's the guilty part. Like I enjoy having it, but I still don't feel like I should have paid that for it.
Gotcha.
But as collectors, I'm sure we face that. And then the second one to that is I have 3 PVM monitors, and I don't know why. I don't see them very often. They pop up on Craigslist, and I will drive hours to go get one. I don't know what it is. Like I might like collecting those more than games, but there's like limited space for PVMs, right? Who needs that many?
At least they're usually stackable.
They are stackable, and that's been the great thing, right? So, But who needs? I mean, I look like I'm running like a NASA space station in my living room right now.
I almost went down that hole. I saw someone selling 2 of them for $60, I think, and I'm like, I could do that. That's not bad. I could use a CRT. I don't have a CRT, but then I'm like, where am I going to put the PVM? I have no room for a PVM, so I decided not to.
Yeah, I need to tone it down personally, but yeah.
You have nothing to worry about. Have you seen Cartridge Canuck?
No.
Yeah.
not PVMs, but with just CRTs, especially 13-inch. Is that his favorite?
From my understanding, CRTs can be quite, if you get in there, it's kind of dangerous technology inside. And he's just got them stacked on top of each other. I think he's probably got coffee tables made of them. Like, he just...
Wow.
His shelves at the time were milk crates.
Yeah.
That's what he used for his game and entertainment system. It was a clever idea. I just don't know about the stability.
So yeah, I don't feel as bad anymore. Thanks.
Yeah.
There you go.
He had like 4 on his entertainment unit and another like 8 in the garage is what he had said one time. So, and those weren't PVMs. Those were just normal CRTs. I think he did go for like, some decent brands like Sony or Toshiba or something like that. But yeah, maybe that'll make you feel better. Okay. Our last and final viewer question from Flock.
I didn't get to answer that question. You're jumping
Oh my
ahead.
gosh. Sorry, go ahead.
As far as, I don't know, guilty pleasure, I mean, I don't feel any guilt around it, but I, for a very long time, was really into the Skylanders games. I think we talked about this.
We did, yeah.
We did the other day, but yeah, I was into that for quite some time, and I think no other adult I know actually played it. And I mean, my son wasn't even born yet. I mean, I played this as an adult, and I was collecting it. And I had more in common with like 12-year-olds, I think, when it came around to that game than, adults playing other games. And I don't feel guilty about playing it. I do have like the first 3 sets, like all figurines for the first 3 sets
it's ridiculous.
of them. And then I had to stop because it was just too much and no room for all that. But, that kind of thing. Now, I've had games where I thought, I would never play that. That's for kids, like Pokemon Red. I played that because it was a Cartridge Club game. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I snubbed my nose at anything Pokemon for years until I played that game. And that's not even one of the grander titles, I'm sure, in the series of Pokemon games that are out there. It's like a basic one.
Yeah, I hear Crystal is like the pinnacle of that time frame, but
yeah.
So
I played that and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would never sort of stub my nose at it again. I know those Pokemon games are worth something.
Yeah.
They're like cash in pocket kind of thing, but I'm glad I have a ton of them in my collection. I think I'll probably play some more. And before that, I was like, oh, that's a kid's game. That's for kids. And even when I was a teenager, because I'm older, like of an older generation kind of thing, when that Pokemon stuff came out on like Game Boy and all that kind of thing, I felt like even at that age, when I was like a teenager, that I was too old for that. And I think I kind of missed out back in the day. That would have been something I probably would have thoroughly enjoyed had I not been so stubborn about it. So if you have a guilty pleasure, I say indulge yourself in it. It's, don't deny something because you think it's this way or that. Play it and check it out.
Sounds good. I like it. All right. Now, last one. Flock of Nerds. What music do you listen to when you're counting all your cash from a killer day of sales? And then he says, Jay-Z. It's Jay-Z. I don't even know how to answer this. I don't have a stack of cash. Miles has sold at swaps twice and sounded like he was successful. He's the one who had Evo at a swap, not me.
Yeah.
So I have not yet experienced this. I think I'll let you guys answer while I try and think of an answer of what I will listen to if I have a stack of cash after Barry.
I think I was listening to Killing in the Name when I had my best Waterloo swap haul of cash. Nice. But I think that was just randomly on the radio, so I don't think I specifically picked it. Otherwise, when I'm walking around with any amount of cash, I usually listen to either like Flock of Nerds intros or Flock Talk. introductory music, anything to do with Flock of Nerds, I pretty much listen to because it's my jam. So,
all right, that's an answer.
Yeah,
and it has to be an honest one because you don't lie.
That's right.
Okay.
If there's anything we've learned from today, that's I don't lie.
All right, Travis, I don't know if you really have an answer to this, but you could just spin it however you want.
Well, usually on the flip side of that, I'm not selling stuff, but on the way home with all of my loot, I'm usually much poorer. So I'll listen to some sad stuff like some Lorde or the newest Adele, occasionally some angsty teen stuff from the early 90s, maybe a really sad Pearl Jam song, something that just really reflects my emotions because I'll have less money. And when I come home with an armload of stuff, I have to own up to my wife about how much money I actually did spend.
Okay, next time try a Weird Al, Angry White Boy Polka.
You got it. I will try to
because that's got a mix of plenty of songs. Plus, it's got Weird Al. It's a polka. It's a little bit hype, so it's got a little bit of energy to it.
I think it's a great
sad
suggestion.
and happy at the same time.
It's the best thing I've heard on this podcast yet.
Ouch. All right, I have not come up with a song at all. I don't know. Not a clue. I can't even answer. Not even a funny answer. I don't even really listen to much music these days anymore. Not much music, the TV channel. But I don't listen to music very often. I try to, but I usually just put on Spotify and throw on some house music and listen to that these days. Either that or I'm listening to kids' music with my kids, or sometimes Weird Al.
What if you could listen to it on 1.5 times speed, though? Does that make it better for you? I know you like to hear things fast.
I don't like to hear music fast. It screws it all up.
Okay.
So we'll listen. My celebration will be listening to Flock Talk at 3x speed. All right. Moving on to our next segment. Suggested content. Do you have a suggested YouTube channel, podcast, video? You suggest the viewers check out. Listeners, but viewers, same thing. Starting with Canadian Retro.
If you're looking for probably the most hilarious channel as far as video game collecting goes, you have to watch Rebel Gaming Club. If you haven't subscribed to Rebel Gaming Club, you are doing yourself a massive disservice. It has got to be like the most hilariously put together. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just basically chaos and video game collecting. They've been around. I think they just had their 1 year. So they've only been on for like a year and they're gaining massive popularity. So if you haven't checked them out yet, it's Rebel Gaming Club on YouTube. Go check that out. That's absolutely a must check out. And then you must also check out Retro Revolution's Jared's channel. If you guys haven't checked it out, I'm sure if it's just CC members listening right now, you're probably aware of his stuff. But if you're not a Cartridge Club member, you might not be aware of Retro Revolution's channel. He absolutely knocks it out of the park. I mean, you can have anyone that's knowledgeable about video games or that kind of stuff. This guy basically takes stuff apart and puts it back together in a configuration you like. So he basically recently just consoleized a PSP, turned it into like basically like a PS2 with a controller, those kind of stuff. And he shows you how he went about doing it. And it's just absolutely brilliant the way that he's going about doing that. I mean, it really adds, I think, a lot to the community that, a person like myself can't really do that kind of stuff. Anybody can do sort of pickup videos. What he's doing is something extra interesting, I think, and shows me stuff I would never even think to do or even attempt after he even showed me how to do it. But it's just cool nonetheless and really builds your knowledge base. So if you're looking for entertainment, go with Rebel Gaming Club. If you're looking for like technical know-how, check out Jared's channel, Retro Revolutions.
Okay. So I'm going to recommend everyone check out Wayne Schmidt on YouTube. He builds things, he does reviews, he tests products, he hacks things, he plays with neat toys and builds things. He tests tools and finds solutions to everyday problems. Just a weird channel. He comes off as like a retired guy with a bunch of time on his hands that likes screwing around with neat stuff. It's Wayne Schmidt. Just particularly check out at least his coil train. It's a weird, fascinating thing. Just basically a coil of copper wire, two magnets, and a battery in the middle. And he does so much playing around with it to find the ideal solution for you, and gives you like what thickness of wire to use, what magnets to use, what batteries are best. Just weird things like that are interesting to watch and learn. All right.
Nice.
And yeah, what do you got, Travis?
I'll second Retro Revolutions. Jared's awesome. He's I really like that channel, so please everyone go check that out. One that I've name dropped here a couple times tonight is GameValueNow.com. Rick Hogan, he's over on Nintendo Age as Hoagie. When I first saw this website pop up, I was like, "Come on, guys, we have video game price charting. What are you trying to do? Like, it's not. What are you doing?" And then I went to it and I was like, "Oh wow, this is actually really cool. This is awesome. This is a good rival to that, and I'd like to see both of those sites get better because of each other's progress." So definitely check that out. Like I said, it might not be for every type of collector. It's limited in some regard, and in other ways, it's really neat. So at least give it a look. It's also very mobile friendly, which I think is a big plus. And then secondly, Play and Listen podcast with Jonathan DeLuca. He also goes by JD. It's a non cartridge club podcast, but he about 4 or 5 months after we started, he sent us an email and was like, "Hey, I really like your podcast. I'm thinking about starting my own." And we're like, "Yeah, dude, go for it. And we'll give you feedback. We're obviously not professionals. We just do this whenever we can." And it's been interesting to hear him, start out and then get better, and now he's doing really, really good. And basically, the format of the podcast is he will occasionally have a guest, sometimes very distinguished guests, especially within video game music, and they bring up their favorite tracks. They listen to it, and then they'll talk about it afterward. And so, if you're really into gaming music, it's a good podcast, and it doesn't really have a routine schedule. It's just kind of whenever he gets them out. So sometimes you get 2 a week. Sometimes you get a couple every 2 weeks or whatever, but I definitely say check it out. And JD's a really good guy. He's been interacting with us a lot, so check it out. Yep.
All right. And moving on, we've got the Cartridge Club Game of the Month. So the Game of the Month for August is Journey, and the Portable Game of the Month is Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. Who is playing? Starting with me. I would like to do Journey. I do have a copy, picked it up after I heard it was the Game of the Month. Just happened to see a deal come up on it, so I bought that, and I want to try it out. I've heard it's absolutely child friendly, so I want to try it with my son and maybe my wife even too. Just it sounds like it's a interesting atmospheric game, and some surprises or something. I don't get exactly what there is to be, what the secrets are. There seems to be secrets about it. Every time I hear people talk about it, they're like, I don't want to spoil anything. So, and then Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, I plan to play that. I did play it years ago when I first got my DS, and I really enjoyed the drug dealing in it. It was really fun. I want to do that again badly. I think I have a problem. So, Travis, you playing?
I actually don't have a PS4, so I can't play Journey, but I have played it in the past at a friend's house, so it's a neat game. So everyone
you don't have PS3 either?
I do not. I'm PS free at the moment, but I am partnering with I have split custody with the PS4, so we're swapping each month. So I get it in a couple days. I'll get it finally. But I have played it in the past, so it's a pretty neat game. As for Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, I'm actually playing Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories on my PSP. I think that's enough handheld Grand Theft Auto for me, but I hear this one's a good one, so go play it.
And Cage Retro?
I do not own a copy of Journey, so I have not played it. I've seen things of it. Seems interesting, but like I said, I'm sort of in the process of unplugging everything, so it's hard for me to plug things back in right now. As far as the Grand Theft Auto game on the PSP, I've played it before. Not all the way through, but I played enough of it, and I enjoyed it, but I don't really need to play it again. I've got to finish up other Cartridge Club games of the month that I never finished.
At least you finished Pokemon Red, right?
Yeah. And how many months later was that after that was the Cartridge Club game? That was
I can never blame anyone for not finishing a game, because I rarely finish anything.
Yeah. There's too many games to experience. I can't finish them all.
Yeah, and there's too many games that I find frustrating that I give up after 20 minutes. So all right, guys, that's wrapping it up. This is our plug section. So go check out Travis. He is on the Polykill podcast, and they also have a YouTube channel where they release their podcasts in video format, which I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, I like seeing you guys. The only problem I have is I don't have as much time to watch videos as I do having a podcast on while I'm working or something like that. But I love seeing you guys when you're doing the podcast. It's great.
Awesome.
And Trav Plays Games on Twitter.
Yes. And you can follow us together at Polykill.
Yes. Okay. And then Canadian Retro. Check him out on YouTube, and on Twitter, he's Canadian_retro. But go to YouTube and check out his channel, because he has, almost 400 videos? Or over 400 now?
I think it's around there, yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head.
You had gameplay earlier on, right?
I've done a little bit of this and that.
Did you do reviews or not?
No, I've never really done reviews much. Okay. I did do one segment where I did kind of like a comic book video game review. Okay. So I did one segment where I looked at an ad like you would back in the day, like from a comic book.
Okay.
And then play the game and like review the game and see if it compares to what they're saying in the ad.
Cool.
I was like, this game's super rad and blah, blah, whatever. And they're like, is this game super rad or does it totally suck? Right.
Yeah, so, I definitely missed that video.
Yeah. So it was called To Believe or Not Believe the Hype, I think is what it was called. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So I did that once for a game I really enjoy, Destiny of an Emperor on NES. And I haven't made one since. I should probably get back to doing that because I really after I move, I might be able to get into it. Maybe I could just slow down collecting and cleaning and maybe get back into making real content for my channel and playing video games.
All right. And I'm Derek of Two Dorks. Go check out Two Dorks on YouTube. TWO Dorks. Channel with me and my brother-in-law. Also, check out the Cartridge Club, cartridgeclub.org. That is the club that got all of us together. We only met pretty much because of that club, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, every one of us.
Actually, that's not true. I met you through you watching YouTube channel of mine, and then
first. Okay.
And then we met at a swap meet.
I may have only heard of you because of Cartridge Club. I don't know for sure. Unless it was because you were local, I found your YouTube first. It's possible.
Yeah, I can't recall that, but I don't remember ever talking Cartridge Club chat with you when we first met.
Well, I wouldn't have known you as well then.
Yeah.
I probably hooked you up with that game at that swap before then. All right. So thank you everybody for listening, and thank you for the guests for being on. I think we had fun.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, thanks for having us, man. It was great.
Absolutely.
Cha-ching.
We were talking about how we don't like to at least and that's true. I think that's another reason that I don't do it. But one is yard sales.
You're cutting it out, bud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't like to something.
Am I good?
I think it's quality of your internet connection or something, because you're fuzzing up too in your video.
I don't like what you're saying.
It's a little better now. I think.
Let me kick my wife off. I'll just keep talking until you tell me it's good.
Oh, it got worse.
Oh my God, what is going on?